The title of my piece, which is also the video, is called Anillos, which is in Spanish, and it means rings. This project was actually the idea of my dear friend Elizabeth Bilson. And Elizabeth is both passionate about science and also about music. She worked at the Space Science department. She was actually the general manager. And she came to me with this idea of using the Cassini images and to have a musical composition written about the images. That is to say, how a composer and artist would interpret those visuals. Discovering the beauty, the visual beauty of these pictures immediately triggered in my mind sounds or ideas of timbre. This is a percussion concerto because there is a soloist playing, Tim Feeney, who is a wonderful percussionist. So when the piece starts, you hear the background of the orchestra, and you hear Tim Feeney on the vibraphone doing very fast runs. My idea was that these runs on the vibraphone represents the circles, the rings themselves. And also, as it progresses 1/3 through the piece, you will hear that there is a range that starts in the middle of the frequencies of the orchestras, and as it evolves, it keeps going higher and higher and higher and higher till you reach those very high sounds of the violins, and that's when the colors of the images become more glowing and white. Now, the rest of the orchestra, one could say, is an accompanying aspect to the soloist, but in this case is very important as well. When you hear the trumpets or when you hear a flute, the choice of that has to do with the image that I had in front of me. Well, then I had to decide which section of the orchestra, whether it would be the strings, whether it would be the woodwinds, the brass, or the percussion soloist. The other instruments of the orchestra provide a lot of the colors. When you get this beautiful orange surface, as the imagery changes, so does the frequency of the music. So you will hear he shifts from the vibraphone to even higher ringing instruments, and in this case it's the glockenspiel, which are like little bells, and that's the sort of glittering percussive sound when you see this gorgeous orange. At the end of the section with the glockenspiel, you will see a white glowing sort of reflection from behind of the planet, and that's where you hear the highest frequencies of the piece. That's to say, the highest point. When you will then suddenly hear the whole orchestra in a huge chord, and you will see then that beautiful image of Saturn. Then after the chord and when you start descending again, the music changes and also the imagery then changes. You'll see this frozen surface, and it's very poetic and a wonderful contrast from what preceded before. There is a structural beginning, middle, and end, but there is also a narrative. So as I picked a series of images, Then I wanted to narrate that, and narrate it according to a sequence that follows a musical pattern. These are not just scientific pictures. Although the pictures are real and they reflect a reality in outer space, in my mind is a great deal something of the imagination. It's almost like a rendering, like a painting. These pictures are like art to me. And I think that any viewer who looks at that would say, this is really gorgeous. What you hear then is an instrument called the timpani, which is one of the main staples of the symphony orchestra. It's those big kettles that are played. That signals then that descent to the lowest frequencies of the piece. The piece starts in the middle register of the orchestra. It ascends, then the central point, sort of the climax is that huge chord where you see the planet in green, then the descent, and at that point you have to lead to a conclusion of the work. So in terms of me structuring this as a composer, I wanted to have a pulse acceleration that will guide the piece through something exciting at the end, because again, not only is this poetic and gorgeous, but it's also exciting. I mean, there is a sense of exploration. You hear the strings and you hear some of the woodwinds. Also, you will hear the transition from the timpani, from the kettle drums, which are low pitch, to the tom-toms, which are smaller drums that use higher pitch. The narrative is like a journey. I mean, it's like the excitement of the arrival, and perhaps we are getting there, or we can see, if we were in a spacecraft, we can see then the planet from one of the windows, and we are there. So it's a sense of arrival. Right in the last half minute, you hear again this huge chord that you heard at the center, and then you hear it as the piece sort of ascends and gives this sense of lifting up and looking towards the heavens, and that's when you see this gorgeous rendition of the planet. You look at Saturn and you say, this is amazing.